Are we in? Are we out?
We are live. We are live, and we don't hear Ed. Yes, let's remove your
It's okay.
headsets. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everyone.
All right.
So, technically, right now, in a technical format, we are having small technical issues,
Yeah,
which happens. I mean, this happens in the days of age, which is fine. I mean, I'm sure we're going to
yeah.
go through a lot. And right now, Ed is having that small technical issues. I had it at one time. Gigi had it at one time. So,
Yeah.
sooner or
All
later,
right.
we'll
I
take care of
think
all
he's
this.
back. There goes.
Is he
There
back
goes
now?
Ed.
Welcome back. Oh, my goodness. Look at that handsome face. He's back.
God, I mean, this is
All right. All right. Good morning.
Wonderful.
Come on, Ed. Let's do your introduction.
well, I would, but I don't know what's going on my internet,
I
man.
know it happened
I had to
last
It's
jump on
minute.
my
okay.
Yeah.
phone. I'm trying to get in there, but what is up, everybody? Technical difficulties in the morning, no big deal.
Yeah.
But today is Friday, so
September 10th.
welcome to our Real Estate Unwrapped. I am Ed. You can find me on Instagram at NYC Homes with Ed, and we are here with Gigi and Israel. What's up, guys?
Yes, and you can find us. You can find Gigi everywhere.
There you go.
Everywhere.
Exactly. Just like you
Good
find me as
morning,
well.
Melody. I see Melody's on. So this
Good morning,
morning,
Melody.
yes. So this morning we're doing part two of our um, ramp up your business, right? And we're going to discuss serious matters. We're going to get back into our grind because last week we had the long weekend. We had a
Right.
much lighter subject. We're back in serious business, right? And you remember, guys, when we were prepping, we wanted to discuss, of course, prospecting, but then it's boring. It's the same old thing, the different
Right.
ways of prospecting,
I feel like people
the
cringe.
scripts, the this, the that. It's a snooze, correct?
People cringe. They cringe when
Right, they cringe. Nobody wants to do this. And you guys have those fantastic ways of doing business. I'm a listing agent. Yes, I do prospect. Yes, we do referrals. But you guys have something else that I don't have because I don't work with buyers. And you added these extra activities that are super brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, the things you do. And I would want everyone to actually take notes. We're not going to have any slides. This is going to be a conversation. And Ed and Israel have those absolute wonderful ideas. Actually, yesterday I was blown away when we just basically were rehearsing for today's show. Anyway, let's get to it. We talked about ramping up the business. You guys are working with buyers. I think, Israel, you had a disclaimer because we're still in the age of.
oh yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
So the disclaimer. I mean, honestly, like we're going to be talking about a lot of things that people want to write down, people want to do. Right now, we're going to be talking about not only prospecting in the sort of way, but also like door knocking, making phone calls, so on and so forth. And please, as you're listening to these advices and tips and tricks that we do, just keep in mind of what your state is rules right now are, because generally everybody has different rules around there. So we just want to make sure that this is something that's done every single day, for top agents like ourselves. And then we want to make sure that, people understand that your state, probably has a rule right now not to make the phone calls, not to door knock. But keep in mind that this is actually ways of you, trying to stay productive throughout the course of your time as you're a realtor in this world. So,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So,
So
yesterday I was absolutely blown away when Israel told me the best way. I mean, you're working with buyers. A lot of us have buyers that we're taking out, and you taking them, showing properties, you bringing offers over ask. It looks like everything you're looking at is not being accepted. Of
right.
course, you have a few buyers that are getting those house, thank God, otherwise we'll be out of business. But it's, because it's a strong seller's market, what do we do? And then Israel just said, you guys need to go and preview properties. And I'm like,
Well, right. I mean, honestly, previewing properties is not only, it's an everyday thing. Honestly, whether you do one property, two properties, you should always preview properties to really know the products by which you're working in, right? Whether you're working in a certain farm market, you should always preview what's new out there. And by actually going through your own agency's properties is a better way and a quick way for you to do it. However, once you've previewed that property, you will run into a buyer or even a seller who's looking to buy right away. Okay, that is actually looking for a certain property. And once you know and you've done that preview, now you don't have to search so much. Now you just go and say, you know what, I have the right property for you, and you actually go in there. So, one of the metaphors that I used yesterday during our conversation was the conversational retail. When you go to a retail store, you're amazed at the person who knows the product versus the person that just says, "What do you need?" Right? When that person asks you, what exactly, what are you looking for, and gives you all these questions and shows you exactly what the product is about, versus, here, this is the product. Have a great day. Then
let's add. No
he's
good.
back.
No good. No
and
good.
he's gone.
No, we're
Sorry,
trying different,
I'm testing. Yeah.
different things. So this is actually the preview, because I haven't done previews in so long.
Right.
Would you recommend this for even like somebody, like, isn't it something strictly? Because I remember when I even training new agents, we really promoted previews for new agents. Would you recommend previewing for somebody who is in the business for 10 years?
Absolutely.
How does that apply to them?
Absolutely. What's crazy is that I've actually done previews. The first time I did a preview was several years back, and that's, and it wasn't even part of our office. I used the words, "Can I preview your unit?" And sometimes I did that, and people say, "No, where's your buyers?" Right?
Mm-hmm.
But in today's market, I've done it so many times that it's like, yeah, go ahead, you can preview my apartment. Once it hits the market, I'm like, all right, I need to preview it because I have buyers that are ready to move forward with it.
Right.
And then they'll just automatically say, sure. They'll lend you the keys, obviously, if it's vacant, and you go and do it. I presume that it's much easier for a vacant apartment versus apartment that's occupied.
But do you have, in these days where properties just fly off the shelves in a lot of markets, do you apply a strategy for previewing? Because to me, in the back of my head, as a listing agent, previewing would be, I'm going to see a listing that is overpriced, that maybe I can get an appointment through the listing agent and go preview that properties when the let's say the sellers are home. That's going to give me an opportunity to probably show my face to that seller, just in case that listing doesn't sell, and they already seen me. They already, seen me coming, showing interest to the property. Right. So when the time comes that listing expires, it's going to be easier for me to get in touch with that seller.
So it's a good thing that you said that, because we actually, in our office back in the days, we actually had trainers come in and give us a couple of tips here and there. And one of them that they used, I was like, wow, this is really good, is look at the units or homes that have actually been in the market for 120 to 150 days, right? And see if you can preview those units prior to them expiring. Therefore, it do exactly what you just said, which is pretty much be in front of the seller, or at least have the idea of what the product is about. So then when it is expired, you're able to at least approach that seller right away. So those are one of the cool things that I remember one of our trainers has said that, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. And I actually, I've done that a couple times, and it really worked out. So
yeah, so those are previews for MLS. And then we went a little bit further. You're still working with those buyers, trying to find them things. You guys mentioned previewing for sell by owners without soliciting them, to just see if it would be a match for you buyers, right?
Yeah.
And then we went further. You actually were going to suggest going on previews for expired, correct?
Right, exactly. So you take your list, as we discussed yesterday. Sorry, I'm like all over the place. As we discussed, pretty much some people will do from 2 years back to a year back, and I only go a year back of what is expired, especially how this market's been running around, and see what's expired, what's in my market, and let me go after that right away. introduce myself and just see if they're willing to sell. And there's different scripts you can use. Now, there are scripts out there that everybody knows, those scripts where you have the Tom, Mike,
Tom, Mike, and
so
Harry,
the other
right?
ones, like there's so many expired scripts that you can use to, when you see a seller that's out there, you can start to talk to those folks, right?
Right.
But then, again, they're expired, so they're pretty frustrated. They don't want to deal with any agents.
So I probably would use I would not use the expired script per se, because what you're trying to do is basically to kill two birds with one stone, right? So you would want first find a property for your buyer, right? And then eventually get a listing if that wouldn't match that seller's need, your buyer's need, and basically you would want to work with that seller. So what we're trying to do is basically maximize your times when searching properties for buyers, right?
Absolutely.
Right. So I think it would be a great idea to use the just listed, just sold script and adapt it a little bit to your needs instead of just the expired script that is just geared towards the listing.
So I know we're within discussion, but honestly, I think that all four of them work the same way. All four of them provide the
And
same.
we're talking about the Mike Ferry scripts.
It's
expired, for sell by
Yeah.
owner, just listed, just sold.
It really, again, as I said before, it pretty much, I think all coaches, when reading each one of them, they have either soft, hard, or just a direct approach, right?
Mhm.
But the entitlement of each approach is pretty much for you to get an appointment with that person, okay, with that seller. In the sense of saying to that seller, listen, I can help you sell this home with the buyers that I have now, but at the same time, just know that the approach that I'm taking to find their home, I can do the same thing for you.
Right.
So in that sense, really with the expired, the FISBOs and those other ones are really just to say, hey, can I get an appointment with you to see if you and I can work together? That's all it is. So I really don't think that expires are that bad, but at the same time, it's just really, it's just a different approach.
Right.
You just have
Yeah,
to know how to ask those
it's
questions.
you. I think you get a little bit more power when you come to a preview, an expired listing, a for sale by owner, and say, here, I have this buyer A. When you come in, I would even come in with their pre-qual letter, with the proof of funds, and show them this is an actual buyer. And then you guys, Ed and Israel, you guys went even a little bit further and said, why don't you ask the seller how much you think, what he thinks of the offers that were presented before for a product very similar to his. Right, Ed?
Yeah. You're basically trying to get their opinion on it, right? Like,
right.
You guys can hear me, right? Just want to be clear.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So you can actually go ahead and present it to them and see if it's enticing enough. They might not even be on the market. There's people out there they'll literally tell you, no, I'm not thinking about selling.
So
but then if you ask them,
because you go even a step further, you actually use a farming technique, right? On the listing that you've had, even if it's going under contract or even if it went under contract.
Even if it wasn't your listing, right? Because this is what I did. I took it was a deal that I had. It closed in Woodhaven. Priscilla ended up closing in Woodhaven also. And then you guys, Vincent and Gigi, had a listing also in Woodhaven, a 2-family house. So I used all of that to my advantage to just say, hey, you know what? We're heavy in the neighborhood. We have a strong list of buyers because we do. That open house, we had a huge list of buyers that came in. So I know that there's a state of emergency in place. I know we're not supposed to be door knocking, but technically speaking, if you have an identifiable buyer, okay, who is qualified, motivated, ready to sell, this is something that you can use to your advantage. I'll say it again. All right. If it's a buyer that's identifiable and you know they're ready, willing, and able to move forward and purchase, that is somebody that you would want to use and say, hey, neighbor, I don't know if you know, but that house right across the street, yeah, I actually sold that house. I had a buyer who sold that house. My wife just finished selling a house in the neighborhood also. And as a matter of fact, our team leader, Gigi and Vincent, had another 2-family house that was on the market over in the area. So we have a strong list of homeowners that want to purchase in the neighborhood. There's just not that much properties on the market right now. So what I took from the just listed, just sold script was, who do you know that might be looking to sell their home?
You're right.
You know of the neighbors, and I use the soft approach, right? Hey, do you know if any of the neighbors are looking to possibly sell their home? No? How about yourself? Oh, no. Oh, you've been here for 30 years. Oh, wow, that's awesome. 30 years, you must love the neighborhood. Yeah, I love the neighborhood. Fantastic. Well, just out of curiosity, I'm sure you don't want to sell. But if you were to move, where would you move to next? And you know what always pops up? A warmer place. Guess what's coming around the corner? Fall, winter. What do you think people are thinking about? Oh, God, I got to deal with the snow again. I'm tired of shoveling. Oh, my God, Florida sounds so great right now. And there's people that are actually switch and say, oh, my God, as a matter of fact, I would love to go to Florida. I would love to go to North Carolina, Texas, South Carolina, whatever the case is, right? Oh, what's taking you there? The weather. Well, how soon did you have to be there? Right? Because that right there could literally lead to, honestly, if I could, I'd leave right now. And what if they say that? How do you approach that, right? Like, how do you approach somebody who says, if I could, I could move down to Florida right now. Well, what's stopping you?
Yeah.
What's stopping you?
Sometimes the job, whatever they have. Yeah.
Yeah. So I had an instance. Can I tell the story real quick? And I'll leave it at that. So I was in the neighborhood for the past couple of days. I've actually been dropping off flyers. There was I would say a creative mistake. Okay. I try to get these flyers so that I can do direct mailers. But when I got them printed through the marketing company, I didn't get them set up for the EDDMs. So now I have 970 flyers sitting in my truck, and I'm like, I have to get rid of this. So I have to do what I got to do. So I've been going to the neighborhood, and I met with somebody that she owns a 2-family home with her sister. And she said, honestly, I would love to move to Florida.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, how soon did you have to be there? And she said, I could have been there yesterday. For me, yesterday. And I was like, for you, what do you mean? She's like, well, my sister also owns the property with me. I said, really? And she doesn't want to go? She said, no. She said, actually, she loves it here. We've been here so much. She says that her sister is an extrovert and she's an introvert. So for her, she would love to just kind of go somewhere where there's more space and, but her sister is like the center of the party. So she knows everybody and she's like, I can't let this go. So that's where they're at, you know what I mean? But they're interesting conversations that you're having with people, and these people they're not gonna open their door and say, oh, who the F are you? It's like after everything that's happened for the past 2 years, they're more in the sense of, hey, what's going on? Oh, nice to meet you. Oh no, I don't know that information. Or they might actually tell you, yes, I am actually thinking about selling.
So those are prospecting techniques. They have a warmer approach. And I know a lot of agents are pretty hesitant in prospecting over the phone or going to straight to people. What's your experience, the both of you? Israel, do you find it easier to ask for a preview than just do a phone call and ask if the person is ready to sell?
Is it easier to find a preview than ask for a phone call?
Is it easier to approach somebody when you are going to ask for a preview than you just going to say, here, are you looking to sell? Or you expired? It's like, are you still looking for to interview agents? What's the easiest?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So it seems like is it easier to do it more in person of asking for a preview versus doing it on the phone?
Right. Because I know a lot of 99% of the agents won't even touch that type of prospecting. It's like it's the devil because it's scary.
See, the problem is that, this starts with the new agents first, right? So new agents, we have it's about our personality when it comes down to it, right? So either you're a personable person, that means you can actually ask that person face to face and not be on the phone, or you can be a person that's really good on the phones and not be great in front of the person. So my answer to that question is, when I first started, I was good at asking in person for a preview. But when you do what in the world was that?
I'm so sorry.
What?
What in the world was that?
Okay.
Oh
Did we
my
get?
God.
We didn't get notice of construction or what?
I don't know. They're drilling the wall. I idea what's going on.
Okay, so I guess to
that's
answer that
good.
question for me,
I'll have to mute Gigi
it's all about
if that happens
practice.
again.
Really, the more you practice
Yeah.
on the phone, the easier it'll be for you. Wow.
It's okay. I muted her. I just muted Gigi. So let us know when it stops. You can unmute yourself.
I'm gonna keep my
Okay.
finger on the mute button.
Perfect.
Sorry,
Perfect.
guys.
There you go.
It's-
So
Okay, hopefully they don't catch you while
Ed,
you're in the middle of asking a question.
Ed, I know you have a great background as far as having to do with both B2Bs and everything. So, how do you feel? Do you feel more comfortable going person or more on the phone?
I'm more in person, to be honest. And we actually did a training on this as far as the personalities, different personalities. Because I am more of like an extrovert. I just prefer to interact with people, and for me, it's easier to read someone's face, body language, expressions. You know what I mean? While we're face to face, a lot of folks are scared of the phone. So I'm not gonna lie. In the beginning, when I was doing B2B work and I was working in the field as an outside sales rep for different companies, well, what I ended up realizing is if I keep calling them on the phone, it's hard. I'm scared of it. In the beginning, that's what it was. So for me, it was, let me just get out on the field, right? But then winter came and nobody wants to be out in the field in the middle of the winter. So then what happened? I'm like, you know what? I have to sharpen that skill. I have to get on the phone. You know what I mean? So after multiple calls and going through it, that's where you start to develop what they call a tough skin. You know what I mean? So in the beginning for me, I loved being out and about, meeting people and engaging because it was easier for me to try to connect and find a common ground for us to just find some reason. You know what I mean? On the phone, it was harder. It's like if I don't get your attention within the first 3.5 seconds on a phone call, you're hanging up on me. You know what I mean? So that was the process that it had to develop. And that's the reason why, for me, as I go through these scripts, I like to have those long, awkward pauses, right? Like if I call, I'm like, hey, Gigi, what's going on? Mute yourself. So I'm like, right? Like, hey, what's going on? How are you? And
Good.
I literally wait.
Oh.
You see, there it is, but it's perfect. So I'll wait for it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's like, good. Who's this? You know what I mean? So that's more that for me, I found that to be what we would call a reset button, right? I have 3.5 seconds to get their attention. In 3.5 seconds, I can get them to hit the restart. The restart is you got another 3.5 seconds to go, right? So that's what it was. And it's finding the break. It's me not trying to be a robot and go through the entire script. It was me finding a way to break it down into a simple conversation. Hey, what's going on? Did you know we sold this property over at XYZ Street? No. And what's the answer that you sometimes get with that is, I don't care. What does that have to do with me? Well, I'm glad you asked. You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad you asked. You see what I'm saying? So it's that type of conversation that you would want to have. And I had to sharpen that skill because in the wintertime, I'm not going to be out and about. So I needed to get better on the phone call. So as time progressed, I can get on the phone calls. I can talk to people and just find that common ground and have a conversation. So I hope
practice,
that
the thing that you're emphasizing there is practice make perfect. So the more you do, the more reps of phone calls, the more reps you do of meeting people, the easier it'll become. So the faster and the more you do, the more results you're going to get out of that, which is phenomenal. And I agree with that 1,000%. I mean, the thing is to understand about scripts, and most people are nervous and scared about it, is that, whether they sound dry, great, smooth, whatever, it's all about knowing what questions to ask next once you get a certain answer. That's really what that is. The script you have to understand, even as a buyer or seller, is that they don't know your script anyway. You know, you may ask a certain question, but they don't know your answer. They don't know the question you're going to ask.
Yeah.
So you can't think that all of a sudden you're asking, hey, how soon are you planning to move? That according to our script, it says 6 months. They may say 2 years. They may say 5 years. They may say next week. So you just don't know. You just have to prepare yourself in the sense of knowing exactly what's the next question you should ask right after that.
All right. What I do like with what you guys propose and what you guys are doing is that those are income producing activities, because we tend to do in real estate, we tend to do a lot of shuffling paper, reading email, putting our social media together. That thing is all great, but it's
keeping the water cooler cool. Keeping the water cooler cool.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
So actually, like, this out of the box thinking, that's gonna keep you doing some activities. If you really brand new in the business, or if you're in the rut as an experienced agent, like selling back those activities, say, here, let me see what's up with this MLS listing. Would it be a fit for my buyer? Would it be a fit for my buyer if they can see the vision for this listing? Let's look at those expired listings. By the way, we were talking about those expired. How far would you go back? I was thinking even a couple of years, even pre-pandemic expired, I would probably explore. Israel, you thought that maybe not as far down. What's the further?
Well, I've gone a year back. I don't usually go any further than that.
Okay.
I mean, I've heard people go back as far as 3 years, which is smart, because honestly, we don't know the motivation of the seller at that time. We don't know the situation of the seller at that time either. But for me, a year, because really what I do is I look at what's expired in my farming areas, and then I make sure that they're not active again. So.
Right. So you really need a plan when doing this. You say, okay, I have buyer A. This is the budget, and this is the area they're looking for. So let's establish that farming area. We're gonna check out all the for sale by owner that went there. And how far back do you go on for sale by owner? A year as well?
A year as well.
Okay, so you gotta make sure those are not sold, right? When they're sold, do you still call them back just in case if they know of anyone, or you just don't bother?
I personally don't bother, because I move on to the next thing. I think it's too much legwork for me.
Okay. Ed, what do you do?
What was the question again?
Well, if you're gonna select a for sale by owner, when you check whether they're available or not, if they sold, do you even call them to see if they know of anyone? Just trying to engage them, or you just don't bother?
I mean, sometimes they tend to be a little defensive. I'm not gonna lie. The for sale by owners tend to be a little defensive. I'll be honest. Everybody, and I'm sure you guys can agree with me also. Sometimes
they sold. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, so you do that. So you map out your area.
Correct.
You're gonna go 1 year back on expired. Make sure they're not sold either. All right. And then you're gonna have all those available listings expired for sale by owner. Establish previews for those, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and then you're gonna actually if it's a nice day, you're actually going to go in the neighborhood and start talking to the neighbors.
100%. And if it's a neighborhood, for example, that you have sold in, like we were talking about before,
or your team or company that helps.
Correct. Your team or company. Let's just say it was you, right? Because this was the second part of that.
Well,
as I was going through the neighbor.
How about we just say let's just say a new agent.
You're new agent. You haven't sold anything, so you can use your team sales, your office sales, right?
So 2 things. If you are a new agent, then you can utilize the office sales, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we just said. So, I mean, if I was a new agent and Gigi and Vincent were the ones that had the listing and they had allowed me to do the open house, and can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So if we allowed you to do the open house and now I have a list of buyers, right? I can do the same exact thing. Go back into the neighborhood. Now, it might take an investment. right? I'll be honest. And I ended up doing it. But there's ways that you might be able to potentially partner up with some vendors and maybe split the costs as far as getting.
Talking about getting flyers ready.
For example, if
Right.
you were getting flyers, right? I think it's the best way to kind of campaign her mayor in the neighborhood, right? You can go into the neighborhood, you can introduce yourself, you can say you're the local realtor, you can say that, hey, my team had a home that was on the market, 2-family home. Did you know we had it priced at this price? What else can you do with that information? Do a search of the neighborhood. How many other 2-family homes? How many multi-family homes are in the neighborhood? How many single-family homes are in the neighborhood? What is the price range of these properties? Because guess what? People might say they're not looking to sell, but the minute that you tell them you're a real estate agent, they're going to start pointing back at their home and say, well, you know, what do you think my home can possibly sell for?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Which is a great idea because within all the tools we have in our MLS, we use
Correct.
Remind, right?
Correct.
And Remind gives you the actual makeup of the house, how, how long they've been on your, they've been owned by the current owner, likelihood of selling, price range. So yeah, I mean, you can basically narrow down using the tools that we're being offered. And I think a lot of the MLSs around the country have that as well.
Mm-hmm. And some of these properties, some of these owners have been there for 20, 30 years. Right? And if you walk through a neighborhood 20, 30 years, chances are they're either at the end of paying off the loan, or B, they've already paid off the loan. So the amount of money, potential equity that's sitting in that property can get them something, right? I had a seller, I'm going to say a potential seller because it was him and his wife, but I said, hey, can I hand this flyer over to you? Husband said no, wife said yes. And I said, okay, I'm going to talk to you. And I gave it to the wife. And then we had a mutual conversation. But then the husband went ahead and asked, well, how much you think my house can sell for? So I gave him a price range. I said, I don't know what your house looks like. I was like, but if you could move, where would you move to? He said, I want to buy a ranch house. I'm like, where? He said, doesn't matter. I just want my house to cover that house. And I'm like, great. So as I continued to ask questions, that's when he wanted to stop me and say, hey, you know what? I got to go. And I'm like, okay, cool. You have my contact information. Scan the QR code in the back and you'll be able to populate the search menu, and you can put in all the information of your property and see how much you could potentially get. But we can discuss it further at a later date. You know what I mean? So as a new person, you can utilize those type of tools. But again, we've said it before, you're an independent contractor. So look at this as it's your business. This is something that you're doing for yourself. You're promoting yourself. You're going into the neighborhood yourself. If people meet you and have a great communication with you, and they see you in the neighborhood again tomorrow, and they see you in the neighborhood the next week, and then a flyer flies in.
The key is to go back. It's just you cannot be like that.
Repetition.
Just go once and then they never see you in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So another thing to add on to that, and since we're talking about just buyers in this case, is once you actually deal with the buyers and you have a cluster of buyers in a certain farming area, whichever it is, like ours could be Queens, could be Bronx, whatever the case may be, and you have a cluster of buyers looking for the same cluster of homes. In other words, a single family, multifamily, co-ops, or condos. The best thing to do is actually use this sort of method, which is me find tribe. So pretty much what it means is that whatever I have, is what I find first. These are the things that I have. Let's see what multi-family homes I have first in order to show this particular person. When I go to find is where I actually go and do exactly what Ed was doing, is go into that particular spot that they're looking for and use the onion method, which is pretty much put a pin right there and just use
repeat that. What kind of message?
I'm sorry?
Onion method. He said onion method?
You go by layers.
Oh, onion method.
Right.
Okay.
So you go by layers. You put a pin right in the first house that you think that they pretty like, and you go to every 10 houses, right? And you'll find that particular next house for them. This is now you finding between expires and first fist bills in those areas, and anybody you can actually speak to in the streets as you're passing out flyers or you're making phone calls. Again, whichever one you're comfortable with. Okay, because if you're comfortable on the phone or if you're comfortable on the person, you do both of them. And you use the onion method.
Active prospecting.
Right.
You can't just send an email that's going to get lost. Yeah.
And then the last thing is called tribe. So then in this case here, you ask your team, you ask your company who has the particular houses that your buyers are looking for. So this is where Me Find Tribe comes in. So in the sense of using that same method, but using that method for buyers in the sense of, let me see what I have, let me see what I can find, and let me ask my tribe or village, see what they have in order to find out.
So let's see what I have, let's see what I find, and let's ask my tribe.
Yep.
Okay. Wow.
And this way, if you do that, I mean, honestly, you can actually, you'll produce a little quicker in the sense of you'll be able to close and if not, maybe not close your buyers that you're working with, but at least add yourself to more names and be that mayor of town to the folks that you're actually trying to reach out to every single time.
And then you can probably add another layer. Since we're in the agent attraction business, you probably can get out of your tribe and ask people from other tribe and see if they can have a product, they can secure a product for you, and or may want to have a conversation about partnering up with you.
Of course.
You can do many things.
Of course.
Yeah.
And of course, when you're approaching a seller, at home, I mean, honestly, there's different ways you can go by. Like Ed had used one that he just said right now. There's ones that I use in the sense of saying, I'm actually working with a lot of buyers right now, one in particular that we've actually lost a lot of offers. And I was just curious to know, how many offers have you heard for your home? And they'll say, I haven't heard anything. You haven't heard anything in this hot market? Wow. Okay, well, what's the price or what's the number that you're looking for if you were to sell? What number, where would you go next? And so on and so forth. And
would you go with an actual offer and actual, like actual paperwork of actual buyers and talk to homeowners?
I do have homeowners that I've spoken to about actual buyers that I do have, yes.
Yeah.
I think that'd be a very interesting thing to do, not for nothing. If you just literally showed up to a property and say, like Israel said, hey, you know what? Like I have a client who has lost a ton of offers in the market, and I'm just curious to know, look, I even summarized everything. This is their financials. This is how much they make. This is everything. Clearly, you're protecting their information. You're not exposing anything, but you're just saying, hey, look, this is what their income is. This is their credit. Like, this is how much down payment they were looking to put. Would you actually accept something like this? It might be a little direct and it might be a little shocker, but I think you'll skip all the questions and you'll get to the point of I am actually thinking about selling.
I think it's great. I think it's
and and let's just say you're a listing agent, right? Let's just switch the gear, just a slide. You're a listing agent and you have so many offers in your pockets. Now, imagine you go into the houses, 10 houses down left and right, and even across the street. And you
guys, I'll give you the spreadsheets of offers we had on some houses. If you want,
here's the thing I was going to say is that
stuff and the down payment.
Take these offers,
go knock yourself out.
You take these offers and you go to the owners and say, "Can you, after you say what you say, what offers make sense to you? Which offer would, will make sense to you? Which one would you like to see?" And they go from there.
I think it's a fantastic idea. Fantastic idea.
Yeah, people might say no.
You can use your tribe, and say, how many clients you had. If you never had any client, actually go to the homeowner and say, here, we had buyers that made this type of offers. It doesn't have to be your buyer, but somebody in your team. That's absolutely brilliant. So, so I was pretty blown off yesterday about some of the ideas that you guys shared, on how to, if you're a new agent, finding out of the box ways, utilizing all the resources that we have. And there is nothing new because it's like previews, expired, for sale by owner, farming, using the same scripts. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just have to utilize it to basically to the max, right?
Yeah.
Right. I was hoping we would get some questions from our viewers. Any experience you guys, anything you have done that was outside the box you'd like to share with us? We really would want to hear from it. Any questions you have, if you're a bit apprehensive, why not share it? Share what your concerns would be. All right, because my number one concern for new agents going on previews like this Yes, when you set up appointments. And what about if you're farming in the neighborhood? I'm thinking of security, more of a safety reason. Let's say you're going to farm and somebody say, hey, yeah, why not? I would not mind selling. Why don't you come into my house? And just why don't you take a look at it? What
Yeah.
would you guys are men, so maybe it's a whole different dynamic there.
Well,
What would
I'm
you
I'm
do?
I'm a different. I'm obviously bigger than Ed.
Yes, so
So folks
Israel
will
is
look at
six
me.
foot two. It's
Yeah,
not.
folks who want to dare, obviously
Yeah.
they're a little bit more brave. But some folks who see me look at me like a bear, which I'm more of a teddy bear than a
No.
bear, anyways. But the
Teddy
point
bear,
is that yeah, I've had sellers come up to me and say, "Hey, can you come inside? Let me know what you think." And my answer to that right away is, actually, I can't right now. I do have another appointment I need to go to. Let's do this. Let me get your name and number, even your email address. And what I'll do is we'll set up an appointment sometime this week, and I'll come in right away and show you exactly what your home is worth. And this way, it'll be a much easier. And if they give you that contact information, then they are serious and motivated to move forward.
Right.
I mean, I agree with you guys. And in the beginning, I'm going to say this, right? Like the saying goes, desperate times call for desperate measures. Now, I'm not saying that we were desperate. I'm just saying that as a new agent, you tend to find yourself kind of doing what I would say spinning the wheels. That's how people look at it. You're spinning the wheels, but what's happening? When is this going to close? Things like that. So whenever an opportunity like that arises, some people might actually say, yeah, sure, why not? So I'll give you the example, and we spoke about it yesterday, was that I actually did do that at the beginning of the career. You know what I mean? I actually did, and I wasn't by myself, thank God. I was with another partner agent.
Which is very
But
important to know.
regardless, there was two of us. You know what I mean? So at least one of us would have got away if anything. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm not going to repeat my stories, but I think
no, don't.
2006
Please don't. We
was
get it.
the last time I went to just preview a for sale by owner by myself. Anyway.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, don't. Yes.
So don't do it by yourself. Number one, and number two, like I said, sometimes you might want to because they're like, hey, you want to come and check it out, and then you're like, you know what? Yeah, and in your mind, like you just literally thinking to yourself, I'm gonna get a listing. I'm gonna get a listing. I'm gonna get a listing. So,
Yeah.
but sometimes when that happens, and at the end, long story short, the sellers were like, yeah, we did this, we did that. Beautiful place, beautiful place. But he says his daughter's not going to graduate high school for another 5 years. So, and until they both figure out what college they're going to, like, he's really not going to sell. So I went with the intention of I'm going to lock this down. But then, they weren't even that serious. So you might feel like, oh, this is it. This is the moment. But I think, like Israel and Gigi said, you look more professional. If you literally stop them in their tracks and you're like, hey, you know what? I know you're ready to show me the place right now, but I'll be honest, I have another appointment that I have to get to. And you could be lying, but it's just that, hey, I have another appointment to get to. Why don't we do this? I can book another time, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. Let me put some numbers together. And we'll take it from there, and we'll book a formal meeting. You know what I mean?
So we're entering, what time is it? Q2. We're entering the fourth quarter, right? We're in the fourth quarter of the year.
We did talk about that.
Winter
it's the final countdown.
Right, and winter is our season, and we are not slowing down.
Yes,
guys,
winter is our season.
It's now the time to really crank up. Like getting your plans together, your business, and we're gonna have to talk about business planning. I think one of the training we'll do is gonna have to be on business planning and what activities you want to do to every day, like get busy every day. You need to get out there and meet people and talk to people every day. If you're telling me I have 2 appointments a week, you will be starving. So we're here, we're gonna help you. We're gonna formulate plans so we can be really busy even in the dead of winter. All right, because we're not gonna stop.
And there's a strong key there, guys. If you're a new agent starting now, you're gonna hear some of these top agents starting to take their vacations. A lot of these other agents are starting to go on vacation. All right, so this is time for you to buckle down and just say, you know what, I'm gonna strap in and I'm gonna just go at this full throttle, because whatever you do right now for the fall through the
Into
winter,
next year,
you're gonna
yes.
start to see it in perfect timing come spring. It's
Whatever
gonna take
you
some
do
time,
now is
but whatever.
next year's production.
Yeah. So
So
that's
now,
what you have to
is
do.
the time. Yeah.
Now, you know, while some of
Awesome.
these guys might say, you know what, I'm gonna take a break. That's where you buckle down and you're like, I'm not taking a break. And you're gonna get people that are gonna say, I'm going on vacation because this holiday's coming, that holiday's coming. The next, hey, you know what you say? No big deal. When you coming back? Because you obviously not staying out there forever. It's a vacation, right? When are you coming back? Why don't we book a date tentatively and let's talk about it? Why don't we do? And then you just keep doing that. Just keep trying. And it might feel like you're throwing mud against the wall, and it might feel like every single piece of mud you throw is falling off, and you're like, what the F? Don't worry about it. Don't think about it like that. Again, it's a business. You have to have that type of mindset, and you
Right.
just gotta full throttle, man. Full throttle.
Right. Again, we want to hear from you guys on subjects you want to discuss, things you want to elaborate on. Please don't feel free to just add comments. Feel free to share with other agents because it's pretty much out there on the Alliance movement on my account. It's on YouTube as well. So those things are gonna stay forever as long as the internet exists. So take advantage of it, you know. And I guess we pretty much covered that idea. I thought it was pretty brilliant. The preview factor, that was like, wow, okay. You know, so
Yeah.
let's explore that a little bit more. And until next week, we'll find some other great subjects to discuss. And I hope this was helpful. I really
Yeah,
hope
sounds
so.
good.
Me too,
All
guys.
right.
So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Enjoy your
Thank
Friday. Enjoy your weekend. And
Let's
we
get
will
back to
say-
work. Let's start for next year, guys. Let's do it.
Oh, yeah. So let me rephrase it. All right, guys, enjoy your Friday. Get back to work and kill it this weekend because that's when agents go to work. Tomorrow's Monday for agents. All right. Tomorrow's the open houses, appointments. It's gonna be crazy. Mayhem. Who's this? Oh, somebody says I'm back.
Woo!
Oh, appreciate
right.
you. Thank you. Oh, PJ, this guy PJ. Haven't seen him in a while. Thanks,
Doing
PJ.
great.
Have a good
All right.
weekend, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Take care, guys.
We're missing
Thank
we're
you.
missing our song, but it's okay.
I know. You know what? My remote control is super far. You want me to sing it?
No, it's okay.
Mufasa. Huh. You know we finally here, right? Where are we? It's Friday again.
All right.
Enjoy your
Thank
weekend,
you so
everybody.
much,
Take care.
guys.
All
Thank
right.
you again. Great ideas. You guys rock. This is really fantastic. And I hope we were able to help someone out there. All right. Talk to you guys
Enjoy,
soon.
guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.